What's up? My name is Devin. I also go by Infinite or Pop by Infinite. And today we are going to be making some dark West Coast melodies. So before we get into the tutorial, if you like the video, like the video. If you want to sub, hit the sub. If you want to comment, throw a comment. Also, I do read all comments. I reply back to all comments. And also, if you had a request for a type of tutorial you want to see from me, that's where you would let me know. So let's get into the melodies. So what I'm going to do first is just go into Analog Lab, and we're going to get a cool like little piano. I usually like the large studio ones. Those ones always sound pretty cool to me. So we're going to go in here, and we're in G minor. Let's go to D sharp minor. I feel like D sharp minor is always solid for me. I always come up with cool melodies in there. So that's what we're going to rock with today. So first, I'm just going to lay down some root notes. Okay, sounds solid to me so far. So I'm going to take this, bring the velocity down a little bit, and then we're also going to copy it and bring it down an octave. And then bring those velocities down a little bit too. Now we're going to move on to building out the notes. And usually for these type of melodies, I really like to have my notes like arpeggiated, which basically means you just take a chord like this or something like that, and then you bring it out like an arp. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to start clicking in some notes and try to find a pattern that I like. And with this stuff, it's really just one note at a time. You just got to figure it out. So something just as simple as that. So I've said this in previous videos, but I really like to stick with the notes that are adjacent to each other when it comes to making dark West Coast stuff, just because I feel like everything sounds darker immediately right when you start putting the notes right next to each other. So that sounds cool right there, but I'm gonna try to bring this up an octave just so we have a little bit more high-end presence on that very first hit. Bring the velocity up a little bit. So now we're going to try to replicate this melody over onto the next root note. But since we're going down, we're going to try to make this melody right here go down too, so it matches the root note. You know what I mean? Because if the root note is going down, but then the top line of the melody is going up, like it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like if the root note's going down, then the top melody needs to go down with it, just so everything matches up together. So like I said before, we're going to try to replicate this melody onto the other root note. So I'm going to count the distance between this note and this note right here, and then apply it over on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a distance of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So it sounds good so far. So I'm just gonna randomize the velocities, and we're gonna move on to the next element. Now, when it comes to dark West Coast melodies, I do really like to put strings in there. I feel like it makes everything sound more cinematic and grand and epic and everything like that. So we're gonna take these strings from SRX Orchestra and we're gonna layer it with the top melody of the piano. So now I'm just going to bring the velocity down because I usually like my strings to sit in the background. So I'm going to change this note right here because I feel like it sounds too happy in the progression. I'm actually going to go into the piano progression and change this one because I feel like this one just sounds a little too happy in comparison to all the other ones. And cool, now the strings are sounding good too, so let's move on to a lead. This one, Impurity, is used a lot, but you know what? Honestly, it just gets the job done. That's really what it is. The winter whistle, Impurity, it be getting the job done. You feel me? So we're just going to make a simple melody with this too. So now we're just going to make a simple little lead melody just to complement everything else. So this right here should sound good, and we're going to try to like transpose it down as well. Okay, so that didn't really sound good how it transitioned over. So we are going to try to put it up an octave instead. And then I'm going to change these two to go down so it kind of goes back to the D sharp a little bit better. Now we're just going to take that first initial melody that we had with the piano and we're going to put it into another instance of Purity just so we can layer it with the pad. So now we're going to go into the pad. We're going to get rid of like these like little bottom root notes right here just because it's kind of necessary when it comes to this one. And I'm also going to move the notes so they're not arpeggiated. I'm going to make chords out of these so we can layer it through. All right, cool. And if this does look kind of complicated to you, don't worry about it. These are basically just regular like 3-note chords, but then you just have the root notes right here transposed up an octave. You know what I mean? That's all they are really. So these are just regular chords. It's just with a couple extra octaves up. You know what I mean? Cool. So now we're going to take everything to the mixer track and we're going to mix it. I'm going to break that down for y'all as well. So when we're mixing these melodies, we have to think about what we want to stand out first and then work around that. So with this melody right here, I want the piano to shine the most. So we're going to start with mixing the piano first and then mixing everything else around it to complement the piano. I'm gonna bring out an EQ. I'm gonna take out some of the lows, bring in some of the highs. Actually, I'm gonna bring down some of the highs because the string section that we have is gonna occupy that space the most. Now see, just that simple EQ right there brought out the piano so much more because it just accentuated those high frequencies. Now I'm just gonna throw a little bit of reverb on there. Okay, then maybe just like a tiny bit of delay, like literally like 10%. And this is a cool way to test out how much delay that you have in your melodies without like trying to play the whole thing. All you do is put the delay on and you just hit the space bar twice and you hear how much it rings off. And that sounds pretty good to me so far. Okay, now I'm gonna bring in RC20 just to make it a little bit louder with the distortion. Alright, and it sounded pretty good so far, so now we're going to add the strings in. Now, with these strings, they already sound good, and typically to my strings, I don't do too much to them other than add just a little bit of reverb. Like I said, I usually like my strings to be in the background, so I'm just going to turn them down and make it a little bit more ambient with the reverb. I feel like whenever you turn the drive knob down, it makes the melodies like a little bit more ambient. And then I'm also going to pan this to the left. Panning your melodies is super important because it creates more space and a more stereo spread within your melodies. You know what I mean? And then also, like when it comes to mixing, it makes things a whole lot easier when everything isn't dead center in the middle, trying to compete for that frequency. All right. And then now we're going to bring in the pad because I want the strings to be to the left and the pad to be to the right. Alright, cool. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of the low end out of there too because we are going to be putting bass in this eventually. Last thing that we got to do is just put in the lead. And then last thing you got to do is just play it all together and just make sure it sounds good cohesively. All right, now you have a good little basis of a dark West Coast melody. From here, you can add bells, flutes, like whistles, literally whatever you want to add just to make it your own. This is just a cool like little bass layer of something that you could do. Personally, I would probably add some bells and a vocal from Arcade, but you know what I mean, this is just to give y'all like the little basis of what y'all could really do. You know what I mean? This is a good starting foundation. So with that being said, if you like the video, hit the like. If you want to sub, hit the sub. If you want to comment, throw a comment. And if you're going to throw the comment down, throw me a suggestion of what you want to see next from me. You know what I mean? You got Draco tutorial, Blast tutorial, Mozzy, Kaylin, you know what I mean? Whatever you want, throw it down there and I'm going to take it into consideration. Peace out.